You're a big puncher, so you want the Canelo fight.
Yeah, definitely. But we're here. We train hard. Tureano Johnson is a great fighter. We respect his abilities. That's why I had a great camp leading up to this fight. I'm extremely well prepared. I can't wait to demonstrate what I got for you guys. But he's in for a big surprise.
Listen, Lemieux, can I get a prediction? I'm going to have time to get popcorn or what?
Right. Give us a round.
If they bring it to you,
lost in translation. This is a very good card. Like when you look at how meaningful these fights are with Rocky Fielding versus Canelo for the WBA title, obviously. Tevin Farmer versus Francisco Fonseca, who fought Gervonta Tank Davis a couple years ago. David Lemieux versus Tureano Johnson. Tureano Johnson is very up to game and competing. I don't know if he can beat David Lemieux. But I've noticed is not trash talking and is not, I wonder if he's having some weight issues because it's fights like this, where he seems to take off a little bit. The Canelo Golovkin, he was fighting for a mandatory spot to be Canelo's mandatory. If you don't know, he is the WBA mandatory for Canelo, not WBA champion Rob Brant, which we're going to talk about later on in the video. Katie Taylor versus Ava Wahlstrom. We got that video coming. I got to watch some footage on her while I go make some breakfast. Saddam Ali, crossroads fight for him, and the end of the road for Mauricio Herrera. If he wins, he's very well back in the mix at 147 pounds. Then you got King Rai, Lamont Roach, Belil Akwe, Virgil Ortiz Jr., Ulysses Jr. Very good undercard for, they say free, but if you have a subscription, if you had it for a while with DAZN, then it's $9.99. But still, $10 a month, you can't beat it. You can't beat it with a bat. You can't. A steel bat, a mallet, sledgehammer, not the fake Triple H one. A real, you can't beat it with a bat. $10. And you get so much other, mixed martial arts and other shit, too. But David Lemieux, see, even though he's limited in his skill set, he's a problem for a lot of fighters who aren't used to or can't keep a pressure fighter off of them or have stamina issues, because he's always going to keep walking straight for you unless you keep him at the end of the jab, which Golovkin did and Billy Joe Saunders did, along with movement. Tureano Johnson is going to have to do a lot of movement unless, let's go see, 20-2 with 14 KOs. Most notable loss of his career was when he lost back to, in my opinion, more than Sergey Derevyanchenko, was when he lost to Curtis Stevenson. He was laying some hands on Sergey Derevyanchenko, if you don't know. I was at Derevyanchenko versus Danny Jacobs for that IBF 160-pound title. So, with that said, looking at the style of Sergey Derevyanchenko, he is slightly more skilled, in my opinion, overall fundamentally skilled. I'm not going to say slightly, but fundamentally more skilled than David Lemieux. Right now, it's two. I can't say who's better and whose career can go further at this point in time, Sergey Derevyanchenko or David Lemieux, because David Lemieux does have a powerful promotional team behind him. And Sergey Derevyanchenko was kind of like PBC, float around. Maybe he's going to be on DAZN next. We don't know. But dude can fight, and he got heart. And that Danny Jacobs fight is probably going to be one of those fights where he learned a lot. So, David Lemieux, as you know, 40-4 with 34 KOs. Two very early losses in his career, fights he shouldn't have lost against Marco Antonio Rubio and Joaquim Alcine. Both of them he gassed out. He had stamina issues back then, but even though he's had some issues with weight, he should be at 168 at this point in time, but he just keep boiling down to 160. He doesn't have stamina issues. Yes, he does slow down a little bit in fights, but nothing where, his power is limited. But if you can survive the early 3 to 6 round onslaught from David Lemieux, then you have a really good chance of making it to the distance. Not saying that he may not outwork you. And one thing about David Lemieux is when he knocks you out, he knocks your ass out. You're going out. You will be beat the fuck up. You know? So looking at the 160-pound division, as we were talking about, Canelo is the WBC, WBA. Danny Jacobs is the IBF. Demetrius Andrade, the WBO. Jamal Charlo, WBC interim. Rob Brandt, WBA world. David Lemieux, WBA mandatory. There's no WBO mandatory right now. There's no WBC. Well, the WBC mandatory is Jamal Charlo, but he's an interim champion, so doesn't have to be set. David Lemieux knows, because he's with Golden Boy, has to know and licking his chops that Canelo's got the 11-fight deal. So he's in there somewhere. All these guys at 160 and 168 are in there in the Canelo mix. He's got an 11-fight deal. Making $33 million a fight. So they have to bring in subscribers. They have to sell tickets. So David Lemieux is going to get his shot. Canelo won't go fuck around and be fighting 3 times a year. I think that is their goal. They want him fighting 3 times a year. So it's all about win. I think that if Canelo wins against Rocky Fielding and David Lemieux wins, it's going to be Canelo versus Danny Jacobs in May. Then they're going to move on to Canelo versus Golovkin in like September or so. Then David Lemieux, something like that. And maybe Demetrius Andrade is like Demetrius, like is you just don't know. Like the doors are wide open. Also, the WBC purse bid will be somewhere mixed in there next year, 2019. It is 7:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. I cover every single live. Billy Joe is back. Billy Joe Saunders is back. Please subscribe.